Juergen, thank you so much for joining us here at Super Return International.
Thank you for having me.
The current environment is a challenging one, but from what I've heard you say on your panel there, you're quite optimistic despite the challenges there are.
I think you're right. So first of all, there are many reasons to be concerned. There is a rapid rise in interest rates as a consequence of rising inflation rates. There's the availability of credit, which is much less than what we've seen in the recent years. However, there is a silver lining. One, I think most companies enter the current phase of economic growth more resilient than they used to be. There is a strong backdrop of earnings. Companies' balance sheet are overall healthy. And then there is pockets of growth, which we as Blackstone have been particularly focused on, which is, for example, energy transition. It's life sciences, digitalization of consumer, just to name a few of the topics and investment themes we have been pursuing. And I think those themes have been proven quite resilient and will actually accelerate in the years to come.
So how are you seeing strategies evolve? Mm-hmm. You've talked about resilience in those companies, which is great, but how do your strategies change in terms of private equity?
Yeah. So our strategy hasn't really changed much. So it's probably an evolution more than anything else. But we've been always focused very much on how do we generate alpha versus just beta. And this starts with actually the selection of assets, right? How do you invest in, as we like to call it, the good neighborhoods, which are secular growing areas of the economy, like the energy transition. And then lastly, how do we create, together with, in partnership with management, how do we create value at those companies, the alpha generation? And that has been focused on operational improvement, but also transformational strategic improvements of businesses, which is a nice thing. As we are patient capital, we have multiple years, we don't need to abide by quarterly earnings, which is all very, very positive. We as Blackstone, we have invested tremendously in these capabilities. Over the last decade, we've built out a team of more than 100 people at this stage, which do anything from ESG to digitalization, data sciences, procurement and supply chain management, to just name a few.
What you described there are the longer holding periods. Tell me about that, and that's a theme presumably that you expect to see going on for a while now.
Yeah, I think there's many different strategies, of course, and as the private equity industry is widening, I think you see everything from going from closed-end funds to evergreen funds, and like, as we like to call it, core funds, which are longer-term holding investments, where you really invest behind a secular growth trend in a certain industry or business. I think the value generation itself will also require that we do what we have advertised. We invest for 4 to 6 years time frames, which should be enough if you come prepared to help making these companies better and put them on a good footing for the future. And I think that the time of these quicker flips, as they're sometimes called, I think that will be more difficult to see in the years to come.
What about sustainable investing in that in that landscape? Where does that fit in, and what are you seeing as trends there?
Yeah, as you can imagine, sustainable investment is a very big topic for us, and it is multi-faced, of course, right? One is the commitment to clear ESG targets within a company, which doesn't only include environmental, but also the S and the G, which means diversity at board levels, monitoring of these KPIs, but also environmental targets. Secondly, there is, of course, sustainability in terms of the energy transition, which is a theme which has been going on for many years, but has been accelerating, in particular in Europe, over the last probably 2-3 years, which is a theme we as a firm are very fond of. And we think across our whole platform, which does not only include private equity strategies, but also credit strategies and infrastructure.
You talked there about the S and the G. E is at the forefront of people's minds, yes, as you inferred there. Yes. But do you think going forward we need to separate out the E and the S and the G, because they are all their own factors in making a business profitable as well?
They definitely are. And so I think people like us, who obviously have a responsibility also for the industry, have been doing exactly that.
Makes them more resilient.
100%.
So with all of that in mind, where are you preferring to deploy capital in Europe at the moment?
I mean, we have been, as you said, not as a revolution, but more like an evolution, investing behind a number of themes. I personally spend a lot of time on the energy transition indeed, where we think the decarbonization, which we obviously all facing with, requires a tremendous amount of investments. For example, studies say to get to net zero by 2050, between $3.5 and $5 billion need to be invested every year, which obviously is a big challenge. Private capital can play a big role in that, as in partnership with governments and industry associations. And we're ready to take that challenge.
It'd be nice to feel that this industry was contributing on that sort of global level, wouldn't it?
Right, I think the amounts of investments we have put down, whether it's clean power generation, but then also investments into the net infrastructure or in the grid infrastructure is very important, right? And I think there is the need for that, and creating and backing these companies for the long term can be profitable.
There are 4,000 members of your industry here in Berlin this week, a fantastic chance for you to have some of those key conversations.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to that. It's a great event. I've been here many years. I think Super Return International is one of the leading forums in the world.
Juergen, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here.
No, thank you for your time. Thank you again.